what part of the UK are you in?
Yeah.
I'm just east of London. I'm in a county called Essex.
Oh,
Oh, I
cool.
know exactly that's at.
Oh, right. Okay.
So let's get this podcast started.
Yeah.
So me and you were talking, and you said you had a big Beatles collection.
Yeah. That's about right. I mean, most of it's behind me there. So,
And how many albums do you have?
I should have looked it up. I reckon there's probably, I don't know, certainly 300, maybe four.
Oh, wow.
All Beatles.
Yeah.
The other stuff, I do listen to other stuff as well. So,
Yeah.
Who is your let me ask, who is your favorite Beatle?
you see, everyone asks that. Personally, I've met Paul loads of times. So, although I've met him loads of times, he was the more accessible one. I'd say George Harrison was my favorite one, though. I love George. I love George's music. Yeah.
Not a lot of people pick George. Everybody's like, it's usually like Paul, John, or Ringo.
Or Ringo, yeah. I just like his guitar work. I think his music's sublime. So.
Do you and do you have? Is it just Beatles or is it their solo stuff too?
Oh no, also it's Beatles solo stuff and associated stuff as well. So.
What do you mean associated stuff?
Well, I mean, I don't know if you're interested in it, but this here is my oldest associated Beatles record. I don't know if you can see it there. I'll hold it a bit closer.
Yeah, I can see it.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
Nice.
So it's called Time Beat, and it's by Ray Cathode, and it dates from like, I think it's like 1961, 1960. So it predates the Beatles. But Ray Cathode is actually George Martin, the producer.
Oh, cool.
So hence it's associated stuff. So
yeah,
he was their producer. So of course I've got his record. Why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
Right. Do you have Abbey Road?
I have Abbey Road multiple times.
Wow.
I've got like the original 60s one. Then it was reissued on coloured vinyl. So I've got lots of different coloured vinyls of it. And then it came out in a very nice, if I can get it out for you. There we go, in a nice box a few years ago.
Oh yeah, I remember that one. Yeah.
Yeah, that was remixed.
Wow.
That was remixed by George Martin's son, Giles. Yeah. And yeah, so yeah, I've got Abbey Road lots of times.
Oh, what is your most rare Beatles album?
Probably album. I've got lots of different rarities. Let me see. Yeah, this one here. Now this is Please Please Me. Their first UK album, but the very first pressings came on a different label. So they used up old stock of Parlophone labels, as you can see there.
Oh wow!
So it's like quite old school. It's like you know.
Oh wow, that's really neat.
Dating back to the, to the late 50s, and I've got a sort of like the second pressing one here, so you can certainly see the difference in the labels.
Oh wow, yeah, see the difference, yeah.
I can.
So when people say a gold label, they've got a gold label first pressing, it's that one with the sort of old style writing, things like that. But this looks gold as well, so people do get confused. But that's like a second issue, and that then followed all the other Beatles ones followed in that style.
Okay.
We'll just pop these away.
And
yeah, go on.
What made you start collecting Beatles vinyls?
Okay, well, back in, well, when was it? It must have been about 1976. I was 10. I was born in 1966, so I was 10 in 76. And the local libraries here, you could like take out records from libraries to listen to them, and a bit like a book.
Yeah.
and I took out Abbey Road. That's the first Beatles albums I ever heard. I took out Abbey Road just because it had weird song titles on the back of it. It was like, Mean Mr. Mustard and Octopus's Garden,
Yeah.
Here Comes the Sun, things like that. And I took it out, and I don't know, something just sort of like clicked, and I thought I can get into this. So my first purchases, I've got them here. They're still got them. So I went out and bought the compilation albums. So these are like original 70s compilation albums, with all their greatest hits. And compilation albums are a great starting point for any band. If you're not sure of a band, just get their greatest hits and then work back from there. And then after hearing that, you then you go through the back catalogue. You'll start with Please Please Me and fill in Revolver, and so it was sort of like the Red and the Blue album were my first purchases.
Oh, that's cool.
That's really nice, man.
Yeah.
I have I was gonna ask, so have you seen, like, what was the last concert you seen the Beatles in?
Well, I never actually saw the Beatles together, but
Okay.
I have seen Ringo, George, Paul. I've seen Ringo and Paul. I've seen Ringo and George. So I've seen I've seen them all, lots of different. I mean, back in the 80s when McCartney was, big, touring a lot over here. He tends to tour over in the States these days. He very rarely comes and plays here. But back in the 80s, I must have been to like 30 plus gigs of his.
I see that you have an IMAX rooftop Beatles poster in the background.
There you go. Yeah, I went to the IMAX launch. Got a nice lanyard here as well.
Oh, that's cool.
So, that's nice.
Yeah, I'll put it on. There we go. Yeah, I mean, it's not only records I collect. I mean, this is just a small bit of the room, and I won't spin it round because that side of the room's a mess. It's CDs, DVDs, cassettes, everything, all Beatles related memorabilia, autographs, you name it, it's here.
Did you say autographs?
Yeah, I've got some autographs here. Yeah. So as I said, I back in the 80s, I used to see McCartney quite a lot. I used to work just around the corner from his office, so in Soho Square. So I figured out, well, if he goes in there, I'm bound to bump into him if I hang around. And sure enough, there was a pattern started forming. He seemed to go every Friday, and he'd arrive about 11 o'clock. He'd get the train from Charing to Charing Cross, from his home in Peasmarsh, and he'd just walk the streets of London. He'd just walk from the station to, and no bodyguards, nothing. It was amazing. So quite often he'd be there every week on a Friday. So he'd quite happy sign.
Oh wow, that's cool. That's amazing.
I've got hundreds of photos as well that I took. I mean, there's another one.
Oh wow.
Oh wow.
Spies Like Us. And obviously Linda would be there as well, so she's quite happy to sign her record. I don't know if you can see the signature there.
Yeah, that's a cool one to have, is Linda.
Yeah. See, that's Susie and the Red Stripes was sort of Linda's pseudonym, and she signed it Love Linda, and then in brackets Susie, which is quite nice. This is my particular favorite one. Both Paul and Linda have signed it, as you can see there.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah,
that is legendary right there.
And then, as you can see behind, I don't know if you can make it out on the screen, but that's me, that's Linda, and there's Paul.
Oh yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was me back in the 80s when I had hair. And then I've met George as well. I met George at Abbey Road Studios, and he was happy to sign. He wasn't happy to start with, but and then another George, and then a Ringo signature at the top there.
Oh, cool. Yeah, because he doesn't sign anything anymore.
Not anymore. No autographs.
Nope. He won't even shake your hand.
No. I mean, you asked about.
Wait, he doesn't do that?
No. He He's done all that, and even McCartney's getting quite hard to get signatures. You know, he's happy to pose for a selfie, but you know, signatures. But you was asking about rarest album, but I've got some rare singles as well. If you're into singles, so I've got here. It's an acetate from EMI. I don't know if you can see that there.
Yeah.
And that's Strawberry Fields, Forever, and that's Penny Lane on the other side. And that's on a white label EMI sort of test pressing.
Oh, that is cool. And
people say to me, "Is it different?" And I've played it once, and it isn't different to the release single, so I'm never going to play it again. I've got a couple of white labels here. So this is an unreleased McCartney single. Was going to be made into a single, but then sorry, this is the unreleased McCartney single. Was going to be a single from his album Wildlife. Love is Strange is the track, and then he remixed it for a single, and then it was scrapped.
Oh wow!
So that's a one-sided test pressing of it. To my knowledge, there's only 2 of them in existence, and I know the guy who's got the other one as well. So
that's unique.
And then there's a very controversial John Lennon song on this one. It just says second pressing on it, and it came out in the States, but was never a single over here in the UK. It's got a very controversial title of "Woman is the N of the World."
Yeah, I know the song.
Oh, I remember that. I actually remember hearing
I know which one you're talking about.
That was the biggest. That was one of his biggest controversy albums that he had.
Yeah. So as I said, that got pressed up, but was never actually released as a single over here. It wasn't released in the States, but no, over here.
Have you ever came across the Butcher album?
I have one, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Let me see if I can pull it out quickly. Where am I up to? White Album, Wonderwall, back a bit more. Where are we? Family Way. Oh, yeah, here we are. Revolver. I'm getting there. There we go. So this is an unpeeled butcher sleeve. So it's still got it's got the new paste over, but there are telltale signs. I don't know if you'll be able to pick it up on the camera. Take it out of the shiny sleeve. But if you look sort of down here, I'll get closer to the camera. There's like a black V.
Oh yeah, I think I do see it a little bit. Yes.
Yeah. That's the black V on Ringo's smock.
Yeah.
So if you was to peel it off, you'd get a nice butcher cover underneath.
That is really cool.
That is cool.
I'm never going to peel it because
I wouldn't either.
There's a finite number of them, and every time someone peels one, that's one less, and mine goes up in value.
Have you ever had to replace a vinyl where it actually got like damaged or broken?
Just trying to think. I've bought them secondhand, and they're not as good as, and I've replaced them just to do the upgrade, so to speak, but nothing that I've had to buy and then I've worn it out so much that it's I had to buy a replacement. It's generally just to replace the ones that are a bit scratchy, and then I find a nicer quality one.
That's cool.
Is there one album that you listen to the most, more than others?
Well, you see, up here in my record room, I don't actually have a record player.
Oh.
That's downstairs, so I take records downstairs. So up here, I listen to Spotify. I embrace it all. So, my moods vary. I mean, if you're going Beatles as a group, it would sometimes flick between White Album, Abbey Road, and then the Revolver came out last year, and that's great to hear all that new stuff again because they've remixed that.
Yeah,
you're right.
If you're going McCartney, I don't know really. Probably his 80s. Excuse me, his 80s stuff. I'm not a big fan of his newer material.
No, I'm not really either.
I think he should carry on writing, but
I actually haven't even heard of none of his new material. I didn't even know he still makes music.
Oh yeah. Where are we? There we go. So that was one of his last ones. That's Egypt Station.
Oh yeah.
That was from a few years ago now. He had another one out after that as well. I can't find it. It's McCartney 3 came out during lockdown.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's probably this one here. There we are. McCartney 3. Yeah, it came out. And again, they're great to hear, but then I don't put them on repeat. You know, I'll more than likely just, put on an old Wings album, Back to the Egg or something like that.
Yeah. Wings are good.
79. Yeah. There's a comedian over here, and he says, Wings, the band the Beatles could have been.
Yeah.
That's great. Let me ask you sorry, Nick. Let me ask you, what is your all-time favorite album that you enjoy? I don't know if Nick asked you that. But what is your favorite album of all the Beatles?
All the Beatles. It's so hard. As I said, there's a group, probably Abbey Road or the White Album. As solos, there's so many to choose from. So I do enjoy the Wing stuff. You know.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Liverpool?
Yeah, lots of times. I went there in the in like the early '80s. Just went up there with a couple of friends, and it was I don't know if you know of the Cavern Club where they performed 300 times before they were famous, and Liverpool City Council were in the process of demolishing it.
Oh, geez.
So when I got there, they'd completely cleared the building that was on top, completely cleared the sort of like the ground level, and you could see into the Cavern Club, and you could see the arches, the brickworks and stuff like that. So yeah, and that was my first time up there, but I've been many times since then.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Do you go to back in the 80s? Did you, when the Beatles was in well, actually, I'll say, like, when you saw Paul, did you see him in London for the first time?
I've seen him in London, Birmingham, which is sort of in the Midlands. I've seen him in Europe, in Holland. I've so many times, but majority of it probably was in London. He did quite a few sort of secret gigs, very small, intimate audience, and I've been to them as well. They're probably my favorite.
Have you ever been to the US to see one of their shows?
Not to see one of their shows. I have been to the States, quite a few times, but I've never seen a McCartney show over there. No, the nearest I got to it was in Vegas. I saw the Beatles Love show.
Oh yeah, the Love Show. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Great.
What's your favorite John Lennon album?
John's my least favorite Beatle. So
really?
Yeah. I quite like I mean, I don't say I don't like him. He's just my least favorite out of the four.
Sure.
I do like Double Fantasy, which was obviously his last album he recorded before he died. And I quite like one from the early 70s called John Lennon Plastic Ono Band, which is quite, it's very raw, very basic. So
have you ever met him or got an autograph from him?
From John, no, he was the one. Unfortunately, when he died in 1980, I was still at school. I was 14, so never had the opportunity. I've met Yoko a few times though. So
how's she in person?
She's lovely. I don't listen to all the haters because people say, oh, she ruins the Beatles albums and John's albums, but you got to remember at the end of the day, that was the woman he loved. So why should I be one that goes, well, she's ruining an album? It's just a different style of music, and I do embrace all types of music, So.
And besides the Beatles, do you collect any other albums, or is it just Beatles?
No, I collect Beatles, but I have got lots of other albums downstairs, whether the record player stereo is. And what I'm doing at the moment is buying all the LPs that I should have bought back in the 70s when I was too busy buying the Beatles stuff. So,
Yeah.
so I'm now buying like, the Police and Boomtown Rats and Blondie and
Yeah.
Dire
What's
Straits.
what's your other what's your like number 2 favorite band?
Wings.
Wings?
No,
Wings.
yeah, I don't know. As I say, I mean, I've seen lots of different artists live as well. So, as I said, I listen to Dire Straits. I like the Police. Not too hot on jazz. Jazz is probably not there. That does nothing for me. But
Yeah.
Yeah, most other rock and roll. I love like old rock and roll, 50s rock and roll, Elvis and all of that. It's just phenomenal. So.
That's cool.
Are you a do you like any like any genre besides rock and roll?
Well, funny enough, I've just started listening to, and don't ask me how I got into it. I've just started listening to Run DMC.
Oh, nice.
And I'm like,
Nice.
this is good. I can actually understand what they're, because that's the problem I have with rap.
Yeah.
Is I can never understand what they're actually saying. Maybe the odd word, but Run DMC, I kind of get the story.
Yeah. I always grew up in I grew up in the 90s, and I always grew up with old school rap, but I don't like the new school. I don't
No.
like new rap at
No.
all.
Me either.
Yeah, it's very terrible, and I don't know what they're saying.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, current music, I'm not a big fan of Adele. Everyone loves Adele, but to me,
yeah.
she needs to cheer up and sing some happy songs.
She does.
I know. She's like too depressing, and it's just I just
she's had like 3 LPs out of that breakup that happened like 10 years ago.
yeah. She's like people call her the Taylor Swift of Britain.
Yeah, I think I prefer Taylor Swift to Adele.
Yeah.
At least she sings happy songs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your favorite Beatles song that's sung by Ringo?
Oh, Ringo. Well, oh gosh, Act Naturally is pretty good.
Yeah.
It's not. I mean, it's not written by Lennon McCartney. I'm not a big fan of Yellow Submarine, but Octopus's Garden's quite cool. That's all right.
That's nice.
And on the earlier albums, he does old rock and roll stuff, so that's cool.
Yeah.
That you got signed, do you like the most? Because they were albums you got signed.
Funny enough, the only album I got signed was George Martin's one. But my singles that I've got signed, I'd say that's probably my favorite single. That's the one with Paul and Linda. It's a song called Pretty Little Head, which is from the album Press to Play.
Oh, nice.
And in the States, you had the same sleeve, but you had a different track called Stranglehold. And I think I prefer Stranglehold to Pretty Little Head.
Yeah, that's a young Paul McCartney.
That is.
Yeah, that's 87, 86.
Wow.
Wow.
It was really nice having you on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
That's fine. Yeah, I've got a YouTube channel, so I can send you some links if you can put that on there. That'll be great.
Yeah, what's your YouTube channel?
Well, my name on YouTube is Fan of Wings, all one word, Fan of Wings. Or you can even search me under Andrew B, but I think there's quite a few Andrew Bs. But Fan of Wings, all one word, you'll get me.
Okay, thanks for coming on.
It was a really pleasure of talking to you.
Yeah, it's great talking to you guys too.
Take care.
All right.
Take care.
See you later.
Bye.
Thank you guys for watching our interview. Don't forget to check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio podcast, and more every Saturday night at 8. My name is Nick.
And I'm Frederick.
And this has been the Music Podcast. Don't forget to check us out every Saturday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, wherever you get your podcast.